Hey everyone. Alright, so today's video is going to be about the apparent, or maybe not so apparent, split of the worlds that's currently happening. So if you kind of dabble in the spiritual community, you may have heard of the New Earth. It's really when the 5D splits from the 3D. So we're kind of in that transition right now, but it's not quite apparent yet, or it's not quite manifested yet. The worlds are still in combination for now, but it is apparent to the trained eye, or to the awakened eye, and I'm not talking about the eyes you physically see with, but rather the imaginative eye, your pineal gland, right? So if you're perceptive, you can tell that there are currently two worlds right now. One is based in fear, and one is based in the lack of fear, rather love, or fear would actually be the lack of love. So, basically all these people that are participating in, these various medical practices, wink wink, are subscribing to fear, whether they may or may not be fearful on the surface, right? But if you believe you need some sort of external technology, some sort of external technology to, bring your life back to normal or anything like that, you are subscribing to fear. And even if you are at a job or anything that may require it for you, you are still subscribing to fear because you don't believe that you have the God-given right to manifest abundance for yourself. You believe that you are only supposed to be at that job, and that job, your life depends on that job, or some specific situation, or some relationship, or traveling to Australia or something. You are really acting from the egoic mind, from the rational mind, and you're not trusting that God, your higher self, your guides, are changing situations for you, or are giving you choices. You're faced with these choices along the way to either fulfill the higher path or to fulfill the lower path, the one of fear. Right? So when you're stuck in certain scenarios, or when you come to a decision point, a fork in the road, at a job or at a situation, you have to make a decision, right? And you're thinking, oh, that job is all I have, or that girlfriend, boyfriend is all I have, then I'll be alone. But what if those situations, those relationships aren't meant for you, but you choosing them makes them meant for you, because you still subscribe to that level of consciousness? Okay, so that's what's happening in society right now. These worlds are splitting, not just physically, but spiritually. Okay, so many people are choosing to align themselves with love, with unity, with acceptance, with multidimensionality, where you understand other people's perspectives and you don't force them to subscribe to any sort of thinking, any sort of belief system, any sort of paradigms that may have been imposed or you believe in. And because that's the hypocritical thing of the people that subscribe to the fear-based mentality, is that even once they get their their fix, their medical practice, that would mean that they should feel protected. On the contrary, it acts like the ego. The fear only seeks more fear. It attracts more fear, right? So that means that once they even get their fix, they still believe they're not protected. Why? Because someone is telling them how to think. When you're in fear, you can't think for yourself, and you're letting others govern that for you, right? Because you don't know what to do. You're in panic. It's like you're in flight or fight. So you will continue to subscribe to that, because until you finally are fed up with it, until you finally break free of that, you won't shift to a different paradigm. So in order to break free from that fear paradigm, you have to start moving up through the levels of consciousness, basically, right? So I'm sure you've seen the scale where at the bottom is fear and at the top is enlightenment. So you basically, once people come out of fear, that's when you see the revolutions, right? They're revolutionaries, and that's just a lot of built up anger that's been alchemized from the fear. And you'll more than likely be forced to deal with that anger because you've probably been suppressing it. But now at least you're finally taking your power back, and you think the right way is to take the people out of power, right? That's what will more than likely happen during this transition, in which people start waking up and more things are going to be revealed. They won't understand what to do with all this anger, and they'll focus on the exterior and on what they may perceive as the enemy. But that's just another level of the game, right? So let's say once you've transmuted that anger, you will reach a neutral point where you may not be really knowing what to do. You'll be a little confused. And that's when you get to another level, because there's levels to this stuff. So many levels. You think you know something, and then it just, brings forth another question, and then another question, and then when does it stop, right? It stops when you stop asking, really, and you're just at peace, right? So from neutral, you'll go to maybe a proactive approach, back into that 3D mentality where you need a lot of action. You're like, oh, let's do something about it. We got to do something. We have to make some sort of positive change. And really, the positive change starts with yourself, because that's what, as light workers, we've been doing throughout this whole time, is we've been maintaining our vibration and helping the earth anchor in a higher level of vibration. The Schumann resonance has gone from 7.8 to 10 hertz, or whatever it is, but I'm talking about the frequency. And that's the cause of more and more people waking up, but not just waking up to conspiracies and all that, waking up to their true power of holding light, of holding a high vibration for people and shining their light authentically, right? So when you go around outside or in a store or something or whatever, and you don't have a mask, or you're not fearful, you're just being, you're in full peace, right? You just don't care. And no matter what someone says to you, it doesn't shake you out of that peace, because you don't have any trauma attached to their triggers. You don't have any triggers to respond to their triggers. There's no emotional reaction in you anymore. You can just respond to what's going on, and respond compassionately, because you understand that they're coming from a place of fear. And at that moment, when you're shining your light that brightly, a few others might see that, and then they start realizing, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can shine my own light. Maybe I can rediscover my inner light. Because when it's dark outside, sometimes you're not going to find another light. So you have to be the light. And that's what we've been doing. But now that we are that light for other people, more and more people can start becoming that light, because they feel inspired, right? So these worlds are basically changing. This world is changing, and it's actually splitting. And it's very apparent now, where you can have like whole cities split in two, because there are communities of people that will live spiritually according to love, without fear, and there are people that are completely based in fear. In my city, I'll run into people that don't wear masks whatsoever, and then I'll run into people I'll see people, because I won't be vibrationally matched to those people that do this, but I'll see people driving on the street fully masked in their car by themselves. I mean, that's just it just shows how programmed they are to believe anything that they're told, really, or to believe what their presumed authority tells them. Because if you tell them something different, they will more than likely not agree with you, because you're not perceived as an authority. So you can see this apparent split happening, and the window is definitely closing. We're getting closer and closer to a full split, because this is the transitionary period. And when that happens, these people will more than likely, their soul might even willingly exit the planet, because their soul or their vibration has been so low, and their soul understands this, And in order to actually help the planet, they will naturally leave, and that will naturally raise the vibration of the planet. Okay, so if you find certain people actually, taking the medical practice and end up actually exiting and transitioning to the astral realm, it may have been in their soul plan. So when this happens, like I said, the Earth's vibration will naturally raise, because we need about, what was the number? 1%. Yeah, I think it was 1% of the population, which amounts to about 70 million people, 78 million people, to have a heightened consciousness. And this is based on the 100 monkey effect, where about 1% of the monkeys on the island of Japan, I believe, were given a potato, but the potato was given in the sand, and then the monkeys would eat it, but they realized the sand wasn't good. And then until finally one monkey realized that why not just go wash it in the sea, and then it taught its family, which then other monkeys began to see, and that effectively raised the consciousness of the monkeys. And it got up to the 100th monkey, and then once it hit the 100th monkey, the next day almost all of the population joined in on that, and they knew what was going on, until effectively all the population knew. Right, so that major shift in consciousness would cause so many more people to wake up, the ones that are still left at least. And that's pretty much when the new earth will begin, right? That's when the separation will happen, because this whole event, or whatever is being planned by God, by the central sun, by our sun, by Earth, in which it can bring as many people as possible, as many souls that are ready as possible, right? Because there's some that are still on the precipice of an awakening, right? Some still haven't faced their shadow self. Some still haven't awakened to certain truths, and once they do, their awakening may actually be fast-tracked, in which they suffer intensely for a short period of time, whereas others like us may have suffered, but not as intensely and over a longer period of time, right? So, could have similar effects, could have detrimental effects, but it's all in the plan, pretty much, at least as I see it, right? So, try to pay attention to these things, try to see, like, who's subscribing to fear, who isn't, because those that are subscribing to fear, not much you can do for them, right? You can plant seeds, right, and maybe along the way they'll wake up to them and believe it was their own seed and their own flower that has blossomed inside their brain, only to realize later it may have been you, if they're that perceptive. But to flat out tell them, no, you're wrong, this is how it is, they're not going to believe it, because who are you to them, right? You're not any sort of authority, you're not any sort of person that has any belief behind them, or respect or credibility. But yeah, so take care. This transition is going to be a good one, though. Big things are coming. All right, see you.